Hello, everyone. It's Deb Floros. I am so excited to be here today for SilverSilk and more. Nilay Patel and I have had a little collaboration going for quite some time, the 10 jewelry making mantras to live by. You all may have experienced some of them, but if you haven't, I'd love for you to join us and go back and take a look at some of the prior videos and material that we have prepared for you. The 10 jewelry making mantras to live by are all about inspiring you to do something outside of the box, something new, something to break the chain, or something just to get the creative juices flowing again. If you want to find the entire collection of the 10 jewelry making mantras to live by, you can go to the SilverSilk and More website, scroll all the way down to the homepage, and look for SilverSilk Education. Look for the 10 jewelry making mantras to live by, click on that, and you'll see all 10. You can also access our videos on Facebook as well as YouTube. So go back and binge watch. We'd love for you to see all of the 6 mantras that we've completed. This is number 7. Let's recap quickly where we've been. I'd love to tell you about the mantras to inspire you to perhaps go and take a look. So our first one was use artisan or support artisans. Supporting artisans is really important for a variety of reasons, but some people just really don't use artisan components or have never tried. This challenge is all about that. So go and take a look at that one. One of the pieces I made for this 10 jewelry making mantras to live by is my favorite, and I think the one for this mantra might be my favorite, maybe. The second mantra is layers, stacks, and multiples. So wearing multiple bracelets, having a bracelet stack, wearing layered necklaces, having multiple ear piercings, and wearing jewelry in all of them is not going away anytime soon. So if you haven't gotten in on that yet, this is a challenge to make some jewelry that you can actually do that with. So make a layering necklace, make multiple necklaces that layer together, make multiple bracelets, whatever you want to try out. It's a fun one and a pretty easy one too. The third one is called Texture is Your Friend. And I'll let you in on a little secret. If you're using SilverSilk, you're already winning on this one. Texture is Your Friend is all about using different textures. And if you use SilverSilk, well, that's a texture already. But it's a fun challenge anyways. Number 4 is called Whimsy Works. And I especially love that. I consider myself a pretty whimsical person. But to bring some whimsy to your jewelry, if that's really not your thing, you can do it in so many different ways. I created a fun piece, a bracelet with a little palm tree using all SilverSilk. Really fun piece to make. You can insert whimsy into just about anything, so we encourage you to try with number 4. Number 5 is Be Brave, and this one might be one of the hardest ones. This is about really stepping outside of the box and making something that you would never think to make and maybe never think to wear. Almost going opposite to what you would normally do. So I loved the choker piece that I made for this particular mantra. Take a look. You might find that it inspires you to do something and wear something that you never thought you would ever do. The next one is Make a Statement. I think go big or go home is something that Texas had right. That mantra is all about making a big statement necklace, big statement earrings. Nilay made in that challenge some really cool chunky bracelets using pipe chain. Love, love, love the statement that those bracelets made. So really, really, really fun. That's the 6 up to now. Now we're going to talk about number 7. Number 7 is use elements in unexpected ways. So when we thought about this one, we really thought to ourselves, you know, what could we inspire people to try? And I think this one is really all about inserting maybe a different medium into your jewelry making. Um, there are a lot of products out there that are intended just for jewelry making. And then there are some products that are sort of fringe that, yeah, they're made for jewelry making, but you could use them for other things as well. And I think a lot of times we're intimidated to try another medium because we don't know if maybe there's enough resources out there to teach, to self teach yourself. We don't know if we're going to have to buy a lot of products to do it, invest a lot of money to try something. Most people don't want to do that. So we came up with three mediums that we think are very viable, very available, and something that you should give a try to. And you don't have to invest a lot of money in this either. So if you go to the actual mantra on the website, we have three links to the products or to the websites where you can find these products. But I thought I'd quickly show you the products, and we're going to dive into the third one and do a little bit of a demo. So if you see the three products, the first one you might see is this. It's called Quick Cure Clay. I discovered this product from Ranger Ink a few years ago when they introduced it in the Tucson Gem Show beach shows. I love this product. Clay is often very intimidating to people. They think, oh my gosh, I need a kiln or I need an oven. And oh my gosh, that's a lot. That's a lot of material and stuff I have to get. Not with this. Quick Cure Clay is amazing. You can actually create something with this clay and fire it with a hair dryer. Well, I like to use a craft heat gun, but it's essentially a modified hair dryer. But you can literally cure this clay in moments. So you can create a pendant. You can paint this stuff. You can create a bead or a component of some sort, a connector. It's an amazing product. So go check this out. Very easy. Ranger Ink makes this. It's available on their website. And have some fun with it. The next one, I'm sure you've all seen this and maybe have even used it. Mod Podge. This has been around forever. Now, it's a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. It comes in different kinds, matte and antique and all this stuff. But Mod Podge is very, very affordable, and it's available just about anywhere. All the big craft stores, and I believe it's even available at Walmart and Target. This product is used for a lot of different things. I've used this product for decoupage for a ton of years, since I was a kid. And I used to take pieces of paper, different kinds of paper, and decoupage on these fun cardboard boxes. You could find these also at a craft store. And I would actually use these to put jewelry in to gift to people. I still do that once in a while today, but it's such a long project for me and it takes away from me making jewelry. So this is fun, but you can actually decoupage onto a small wooden pendant or a piece of wood, and you can make it into a pendant or into a connector. You can decoupage paper or fabric or something onto that, and you've got an instant, interesting, one-of-a-kind piece to use with SilverSilk, perhaps. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is resin. Now, in the mantra, you'll find a link to Ranger Ink's ice resin product, which is a 2-part resin. And I'll tell you, this is probably the most intimidating medium of these three. But I want to show you today a different product and a different type of resin to show you how viable it really is. And it's a little bit simpler than a 2-part resin. So I'm going to actually go to one camera and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Sorry, guys, I'm not quite as versed in this as Nitrile is. Oh, sorry, guys. Just quickly do this. Okay, I'm so sorry. All right. So, guys, this is the piece that I made for mantra number 7. This is a piece of silver silk in resin in a bezel. Using elements in unexpected ways. Yes, 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 that's exactly what this is. I challenged myself to think about how could I use silver silk differently. So I grabbed a bezel, I grabbed some scrap silver silk, and guess what? I decided to put it in some resin. I'd never seen anybody do that before, so I tried it. And I really love how this pendant came out. So the resin is a little bit fingerprint-ish, but look at how the capture chain really looks divine under resin. Now, all I did, guys, was I grabbed a Nunn design bezel. So this is a brass one. It has a nice large bail on it. And the bail allows you to string some silver silk through it. And pipe chain actually fits through this as well. So this is a nice deep bezel, and it's nice and shiny on the bottom. So it's going to really bring some additional shine to whatever you put in it. So I'm going to talk to you about the resin we're going to use. So this is a 1-part UV resin, and it's made by a company that actually distributes to multiple big boxes. It's not the product that we have linked in the actual mantra itself. 2-part resin, as I talked about, is a little bit more intimidating. It requires taking 2 parts, dropping them in a cup, stirring them, and you have a 24-hour cure time, roughly, if you want to be safe for that product. This is a UV resin. It's 1 part. The UV stands for ultraviolet. So what that means is you can cure this resin under a UV light, takes about 2 to 4 minutes, or you can actually cure it under direct sunlight. Takes about 10 to 15 minutes to do that. But guys, that's what's so cool about this is you don't need to buy anything fancy. Buy the resin, buy whatever it is you want to put your silver silk in, and you have something that you can take outside. You don't need a special light. Now, a few words about resin. Safety first. Always read the instructions. For this product, it's 1 page. That's it, which is great. For a 2-part resin, I think it's more than 1 page. But something I like to make sure I do is I put down a non-stick surface. A silicone baking pad is what I use. I believe I got mine from Costco. This isn't going to allow any resin to get onto your table or your countertop or wherever you're working. And resin will peel right off of this if it dries on it. So I suggest this. You don't want to get resin on anything else. It will wreck it. Simple and clear. It will wreck whatever it is that it touches. So another thing you should do is you should wear gloves. So my favorite are these Nitrile gloves. They're very, very good gloves. And I make sure that they're the right size so that I can still be very tactile with my materials. And I also would suggest that if you're sensitive, you may also want to put on a mask. This stuff does have a bit of a fume to it. And I can tell you there are people in a camp that don't like resin and feel that resin is dangerous. So if you are concerned at all, make sure you use all of the proper precautions. Now, I have a UV lamp that I'm going to cure this in. And I like to then grab a piece of cardboard that's mobile, smaller than my space, but big enough that it fits my space and fits what I'm working on, but small enough to fit into my UV lamp. Now, if you notice, this bezel has a bail that actually curves beyond the actual bezel. So if I pour resin into this, it's actually going to slide down a little bit and not cure evenly. So I like to use a tongue depressor and set my bezel on top of it so that I'll have an even flow of the resin. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab, and I had my stash of scrap SilverSilk, and I'm sure if you guys have used SilverSilk, you probably have some scraps around. I don't ever throw this stuff away because I do want to use it. I want to find ways to use it. So I picked today this amazing green capture chain, and it's got the silver ball chain in the center. And what I want to do, and I actually cut this to fit my bezel exactly. So you may not have your piece pre-cut, but I would suggest that you do. And I'm going to wind that SilverSilk in here. Wind it around till it can't be wound anymore. And it might get a little wonky on you as you try to do this. But I want to get it pressed down into that bezel. Come on, buddy. Get in there. All right. Now, something you could do if you don't like that open center is you could add a rhinestone or a bead or something in there. See, look, I just dislodged that again. Okay, got it in there. Good. So you could decorate this differently. So I'm going to just share full disclosure. I really like two-part resin. I prefer that. One thing you'll notice about this particular piece is it's got a nice little dome over the edges. So that dome kind of meets the edge. It adds, just a little bit of flair to whatever you're pouring resin into. The UV resin doesn't do that quite as well. I still like it. It will still look great, but it just doesn't dome quite as well. But the factor of being able to use this quickly and do this quickly and have a piece of something to use within 30 minutes or less is amazing. So this is just a way for you to get your feet wet. And then if you want to try out two-part resin, that requires a little bit more of a commitment, a little bit more of an effort, and has a little bit more of a time factor attached to it. So I'm going to open up my resin and I'm going to start pouring. I'm going to hold on to the sides here. And I'm going to just start pouring. Now, what's interesting about this kind of a pour is we've got all that little netting to go through. So it's going to take a hot minute for the resin to actually seep through and get into the bottom of this piece. So we're going to need to let it settle a little bit. But I'm just kind of putting that in. I don't want to overfill it because resin overpour is problematic. Now, another thing I want to share about resin is Bubbles are your worst nightmare when it comes to resin. So that's usually where people get freaked out because they are using the resin and bubbles are coming up and they don't know how to get rid of them. Some folks suggest blowing on your piece. Some folks use pins or toothpicks, that kind of thing, to pop the actual bubbles. I use kind of the lazy man's way of popping bubbles, and that's to use some kind of a lighter. And even when I don't see bubbles, I will still use my lighter and go over it to make sure that it gets any bubbles that maybe I'm not seeing. So now I'm going to add a little bit more because it's settling in. And again, it's not quite going to create the exact dome effect that the two-part resin will, but I'm looking at this from the sides and I'm liking what I'm seeing. Going to give that another pass of the magic heat wand. And I'm thinking that this is probably going to settle up and cure nicely. So I'm going to slide this off camera into my UV lamp. So I can't quite show you guys exactly what I'm doing because I don't want to mess up my setup here. But I've got a lamp that actually has a dome top and has quite a large space in the middle. It's actually one of those lamps where if you get your nails done, like gel nails, you would put your hand in it. So it has to be big enough for a hand. So I'm going to let that cure. And again, I want to talk a little bit about the use of resin. If you are taking it outside, something I would suggest you do is find a place where you don't have dirt and other things that might get to your piece. You want to try and protect it in whatever way you can. So if maybe you've got a bowl with a flat bottom, or you've got a cardboard box that you could drop your piece of cardboard into, that's something I would suggest you do. I've got about 2 to 4 minutes cure time here, so that's pretty fast. But if I've got 10 to 15 minutes, a lot can happen in 10 to 15 minutes. So make sure your piece is away from animals and children and all of that, so that nothing gets into it and no one is endangered by getting the UV resin onto them in some way. So I'm going to show you this piece again. I wound that SilverSilk into this piece. Now, another quick idea that I had, I haven't tried it yet, was if you've got some pipe chain, you might be able to cut some pieces long ways, or cut them and lay them long ways, and they'll be small, short little pieces, and then maybe fill in around it with some other kind of material, maybe some clay or something. But you might be able to make a cool abstract piece by doing that. So again, using a nice deep bezel like this is preferred. Sometimes it's hard to find a bezel that's this deep. That's why I like this particular one. And remember, guys, all you need to do to make an actual piece of jewelry is grab a piece of SilverSilk, and you're going to string on that SilverSilk onto your bail, add your crimp ends and a clasp, and you've got a very cool pendant on a piece of SilverSilk, instant piece of jewelry. But this is unique. This is something that you won't see people do. And I'm hoping that a bunch of you will do this once you see this video. So I'm going to check on my piece in my little light here, see how it's doing. So it actually looks pretty good. Now, something that you need to be careful of is when you touch the surface of your resin. So let's see, this was a piece I just pulled out. You touch it and it's not cured yet. You're going to have a big blob of a fingerprint in it, and you don't want that. So don't get overly excited. I try to wait as long as I possibly can to actually touch and make sure that my piece is cured. So I dropped it back in the oven for just a little bit more, and I'm going to yammer at you for just a little bit more. This is the kind of thing you want to be careful of. You also really don't want to touch this stuff until it is cured. It's hard to get it off your hands, and it can be kind of icky. So I like how this came out. It does not quite have the same domed effect that the piece I made with the 2-part resin did, but wow, I love the shine. And that little sort of circle in the center where the bezel metal shows up, I love. So wowee, this is great. And let me move this out of the way. So I'm going to grab my other sample piece here. So, oh, you know what? I have a shorter piece. Let me show you. This would make a great holiday necklace. Look at this red, green, and gold. Oh, I love this. So this metal is a little bit warm from being in the UV light. I'm turning that off. But I've got the little fan going, so that's cooling us off a little bit. But I love how this came out. And see, there's not quite that same doming, and I could have kept going, but I got a little bit nervous that I would have an overpour situation. But this is a nice smooth top, and you can't feel any of the silver silk below it. Gorgeous, gorgeous. All right, so I'm going to quickly go back to the layout. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm so slow at the layout. So this is fun. I love this project. I love working with resin. So I hope that maybe this will inspire you. This is really easy. This resin product is super easy. If you want to venture out and try the 2-part resin, you can go to rangerink.com and pick up some ice resin. I believe it is by far the best quality resin that's on the market. And ice resin has all kinds of products that go with it. And of course, I encourage you to try and use your SilverSilk in the resin. It's a really fun way to display it and something unusual and different. No one's going to have a pendant like you if you create this one yourself. So what's coming up next? Our next video is going to be mantra number 8, and it's called Mix Your Metals. And I know that that makes some people really uncomfortable. And to be perfectly honest, it used to make me uncomfortable. But I think it's really fun. And I'd love to chat with you guys about it next time. I'll share a project that I made, and we're going to make a new project. So from Nitrile Patel and I'd like to thank you for joining. And if you make something, I'd love for you guys to share it and to display it on the SilverSilkies page using the hashtag SilverSilkMantra. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.